From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. Israeli forces killed at least 104 Palestinians and injured over 700 who are awaiting food aid south of Gaza City today. Witnesses recounted indiscriminate firing by Israeli soldiers using artillery and drones, transforming the aid delivery into a chaotic scene. Residents had gathered seeking food as the area has been completely cut off from aid by Israeli forces. Faris Afana, head of the ambulance service at Gaza's Kamal Adwan hospital, said medics found dozens or hundreds of bodies lying on the ground once they reached the scene. Media outlets said trucks reached the street roundabout at 4 a.m. local time and that Israeli forces fired at people trying to reach the convoy. Palestinian authorities have denounced the incident as a massacre. Israeli officials gave contradictory statements. One claimed civilian delivery drivers lost control amidst the overwhelming crowd. Another told AFP that troops fired at the Palestinians as soldiers believed the crowd posed a threat. Additionally, at other places, Israeli strikes killed at least 30 Palestinians over the past 24 hours. Gaza's health ministry says 6 children died in North Gaza from dehydration and malnutrition at Kamal Adwan and Al-Shifa hospitals, while others are in critical condition. NGOs like Save the Children warn of a humanitarian crisis, highlighting cases of child deaths due to dehydration and malnutrition. At least 30,035 Palestinians have been killed and 70,457 wounded in Israeli attacks on Gaza since October 7th. The revised death toll in Israel from the October 7th attacks stands at 1,139. A recent Pew Research survey unveils concerning trends in global attitudes toward democracy. The report indicates a stark contrast in preferences between countries, with 67% of Indians surveyed favoring authoritarianism compared to only 16% of Germans. As many as 64 countries are going to the polls in 2024, with few of them having already concluded the process of government formation. But Pew says a notable rise in anti-democratic sentiments worldwide has cast a shadow on the democratic processes. India, which is going to the polls in April and May, has seen a surge in support for a strong and authoritarian leadership, with 67% viewing it favorably, marking a 12% increase since 2017. Researchers say it stood out as the country with the highest level of support for that form of government. The support for authoritarian models increased in Brazil, Germany, and Mexico as well. The poll found support for a strong leader increased the most in Mexico, where it jumped 23% since 2017. At the same time, Mexico was one of 3 countries where support for democracy increased. Brazil and Poland were the other 2. The survey finds dissatisfaction with democracy's functionality is widespread, with 59% expressing discontent in their respective countries. The survey also highlights a growing disconnect between people and their representatives, with 74% across 24 democracies feeling unheard by elected officials. As well, it notes that the U.S. has significant polarization and higher than average support for autocratic systems. While representative democracy remains favored globally, support for direct democracy and rule by experts is also on the rise. The survey was conducted between February and May 2023 and sampled over 30,000 individuals across 24 countries, revealing shifting global perceptions on governance. Former MSNBC host Mehdi Hasan has launched Zeto, a digital media platform that aims to reshape the progressive media landscape. With a $4 million startup investment, Zeto seeks to challenge mainstream narratives and amplify often marginalized voices. Unlike personalized subscription models, Hasan emphasizes a collective approach, offering diverse contributors and content for $6 per month. Hasan stresses that Zeto's mission is uncompromising journalism that speaks truth to power. The venture comes amid a polarized media landscape aiming to fill a gap for progressive voices. British newspaper The Guardian has also offered Hasan a regular column in its publication. Euphoria and Hunger Games star Hunter Schafer was arrested at a New York City protest advocating for a ceasefire in Gaza. Schafer joined the demonstration organized by Jewish Voice for Peace outside NBC's Rockefeller Center. This was during President Joe Biden's appearance on the program Late Night with Seth Meyers. Schafer and around 50 others were detained as they demanded an end to violence and criticized Biden's foreign policy. JVP, a Jewish anti-Zionist organization, praised Schafer's commitment to Palestinian freedom. The Supreme Court's decision to review former President Donald Trump's immunity case has sparked controversy. Pressure is mounting on Associate Justice Clarence Thomas to recuse himself. Advocacy groups are demanding impartiality, citing Thomas's failure to step back despite his wife's ties to efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The case, scheduled for April, revolves around Trump's alleged interference in that election, leading to the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. Critics accuse the court of delaying justice and aiding Trump's political ambitions. Concerns have arisen over the court's handling of the case compared to its swift actions on other matters. Questions also linger about the judiciary's impartiality and its handling of politically sensitive cases. Trump did not appoint Thomas, but he did send 3 other right-wingers to the court: Associate Justices Amy Coney Barrett, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh. The State Department has confirmed requesting Israel's signature on a letter ensuring adherence to international law in the use of U.S.-provided weapons. The request follows President Joe Biden's February 8 memorandum that obligates nations receiving U.S. military aid to provide written assurances of compliance with international human rights and humanitarian law. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller emphasized a systematic approach in engaging with recipient countries. Countries in active hostilities upon the memo's signing, like Israel's war on Gaza since October, have been given a 45-day period to comply. Failing that, the transfer of military aid would halt. Axios revealed the letter's existence. Israel stands accused of genocide at the International Court of Justice. An interim ruling in January ordered Tel Aviv to stop genocidal acts and take measures to guarantee humanitarian assistance is provided to civilians in Gaza. House Democrats urge full funding of UNRWA to prevent aid crisis in Gaza. Details after the break, so stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. A bipartisan group of 50 House Democrats are demanding the restoration of funding for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, or UNRWA, to alleviate the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Since the suspension of funding, the agency has lost $450 million, severely affecting its ability to provide essential services like healthcare and clean water. Despite unproven claims linking UNRWA to Hamas, the U.S. continues to withhold crucial support. UNRWA's Commissioner General warns of a looming crisis, stressing the urgent need for funding to prevent further loss of life. Democratic Representatives Pramila Jayapal, Andre Carson, and Jamie Raskin are leading the call to reinstate U.S. funding. They are emphasizing UNRWA's vital role in supporting Palestinians' welfare and survival. Jayapal condemns the funding cut, highlighting its potentially devastating consequences amidst already restricted humanitarian aid in Gaza. After an American convict known as Hamza donated all his savings to those suffering in Gaza, a fundraiser has collected more than $80,000 for him. The 56-year-old earned a mere $17, working for 13 cents an hour for over 136 hours. Campaign organizer Justin Mashouf has revealed that Hamza's act of empathy has gained widespread social media attention. With a new California law granting parole opportunities to minors charged as adults, Hamza is set for release next month. The fundraiser aims to support his reintegration into society, providing essential resources, housing, transportation, and navigating newfound freedom. He has been in prison for 40 years for the accidental killing of a loved one. Planes dropped much-needed humanitarian aid in northern Gaza on Wednesday. Witnesses reported aid boxes landing near the Indonesian hospital in Jabalia and in the Rimal neighborhood west of Gaza City. The assistance, however, was described as limited, with no details on the aircraft's nationality. Earlier, Egypt, Jordan, the UAE, France, and Qatar participated in similar operations in other areas of Gaza. The region is facing a dire situation due to Israel's blockade, with residents on the brink of starvation. UN agencies have warned of an imminent famine and rising malnutrition, especially among children and pregnant women. More than 50 international broadcast journalists are urging Israel and Egypt to grant unrestricted access to Gaza through the Rafah crossing. Notable figures like Sky News' Alex Crawford and BBC's Jeremy Bowen have joined the call, emphasizing the necessity for foreign media to report freely from the enclave. Currently, access for journalists has been severely limited, with only a few allowed, mostly embedded with the Israeli army. Crawford says the few journalists who have been allowed in were not allowed to speak with Palestinians during the tours. Palestinian journalists enduring Israeli bombardment for close to 5 months have been crucial in reporting on the conflict, with many being killed. The Committee to Protect Journalists reports 99 journalists and media workers have been killed since Israel's war began. International journalists stress the importance of their presence for comprehensive coverage and demand respect for local journalists' safety. A Senate committee led by Bernie Sanders has exposed the dire retirement situation in the U.S. Its report, titled A Secure Retirement for All, says almost half of Americans aged 55 and older have no retirement savings. It has also found that half of those 65 and older live on less than $30,000 annually. Key findings revealed that close to 5.3 million seniors live in poverty, with almost half of all Americans facing financial insecurity in retirement. The report proposes solutions such as bolstering Social Security and implementing legislation to enable universal retirement savings. Sanders advocates for the Social Security Expansion Act, aiming to increase benefits and secure solvency. He is emphasizing the need for urgent congressional action to address the crisis and ensure a dignified retirement for all Americans. The average monthly Social Security benefit in 2023 was about $1,700 or $21,384 annually. The top 20% of earners received 63% of the $202 billion in annual income tax breaks for retirement accounts, while the bottom 60% received just 13.4% of these breaks. More than 100 mostly Rohingya Muslims are being held captive at displaced camps. More than 100 mostly Rohingya Muslims are being held captive at a displaced camp in western Burma's Rakhine state. They face coercion into military training under threat of death. The military's desperate need for recruits follows significant losses to the Arakan army. Reports say junta forces took 107 Muslims aged 18 to 35 from Kyok Talon camp and has been forcing them to undergo military training. Severe restrictions have been put in place, which include a ban on mobile phone usage and threats against speaking to media. This recruitment drive, considered unlawful by experts, targets Rohingya who have been denied citizenship and are facing ethnic cleansing. International Rohingya organizations are urging UN intervention. The military is desperate for new recruits after suffering devastating losses on the battlefield to the ethnic Arakan army in Rakhine province. On February 10th, the Burmese military regime enacted a conscription law that has seen draft-eligible civilians flee Burma's cities. Approximately 1 million Rohingya refugees have been living in Bangladesh since 2017, when a genocide by the Burmese army drove them out. Another 633,000 Rohingya live within Burma. Living within Burma have been designated stateless by the UN. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.